The stars were quiet. Too quiet, Admiral Keln stood on the bridge of the Krava Dominion's flagship. The wrath of purity, his four glowing eyes scanning the cold black void ahead. He didn't like silence. Silence meant the prey had stopped running. Silence meant something had changed. Status, he barked. Clear, Admiral, replied Commander Vrook. System 217 shows no resistance. No fleets, no warnings, just like the last 10 systems. Keln narrowed his eyes. And the Terran exclusion zone, 2 clicks ahead. Our probes crossed the boundary 10 minutes ago. A small chuckle rose from the crew. Terran exclusion zone, a joke, a ghost story told by the lesser races. The Krava Dominion had crushed civilizations stronger than the Terrans ever were. The humans had vanished from the stars over 1,000. Cycles agodi, feted, forgotten, irrelevant. Do we expect trouble? Rook asked. Keln smirked. From bones and ashes. No, humanity is gone. The bridge lights dimmed as the ship's scanners shifted forward. The Krava Armada stretched behind them 200 warships, carriers, and destroyers. They had conquered 50 star systems in the past 4 months. Not one shot had been fired against them in the last 10. Civilizations fell to their knees. Before the Krava even arrived, but this time, something felt wrong. Sir, said the sensor officer slowly, we're picking up an anomaly. Keln turned. What kind of anomaly? The officer hesitated. A signal, faint old style. Terran frequency. But, repeating, put it on speaker. The bridge fell into silence. Then, a voice echoed across the room. It was cold.com/human. This border is sealed. Turn back. Final warning. Some officers chuckled. Others looked uneasy. Play it again, Keln said. This border is sealed. Turn back. Final warning, static crackled. Is it a recording? Vrook asked. No idea, the officer replied. It's not coming from a planet. It's moving. Keln frowned. Moving at what speed? The officer's fingers danced across the console. Then he froze. Sir, it's approaching fast. From the exclusion zone, speed and reel. Nothing in our database moves like that. Before Keln could respond, alarms blared. A red light flashed on every screen. All ships in the fleet were now picking up the signal. Contact in 15 seconds, shouted the sensor officer. Keln stood straight, his heart pounding. Prepared visual. The stars shifted. A shape emerged from the darkness. At first, it looked like a shadow, too big, too slow, too silent. Then the scanners caught it fully. A ship, massive, old Terran design. But wrong. A strange glow from its center. No light, no name, just presence. Is that real? Vrook whispered. Key. Lane stared at the screen. Magnify? The ship didn't move like a normal vessel. It drifted without thrust, as if space itself obeyed it. Then the voice returned. This is the TSS Nightfire. You are trespassing. You have been warned. Keln felt a chill. Fire warning shots. 5 destroyers launched plasma bolts toward the Terran ship. Nothing hit. The bolts vanished, mid-space absorbed, deflected, gone. No explosion, no trace. What would happen? I saw the data. The space around that ship is broken. Send more, Keln snapped. 12 more shots. Same result. Then one of the Krava cruisers screamed across comms. This is Battlecruiser Venom Spear. Our controls are malfunctioning. The system has gone rogue. The ship turned damning, not at the Terran warship, but at its own fleet. No, Keln roared. Override. Too late. The Venom Spear fired a full payload into the Krava formation. 3 ships exploded. 2 more were damaged. What is this? Vrook yelled. That ship is doing something. Then the Terran warship moved. It didn't accelerate. It didn't turn. It just appeared. One moment, it was 100,000 kilometers away. The next it was directly in front of them. Everyone on the bridge gasped. The massive Terran warship now filled every screen. The glow from its center pulsed like a heartbeat. And then, in front of their eyes, one of their own dreadnoughts began to bend. Metal groaned. Energy shields screamed. Beam, missile, or visible force. In 10 seconds, the dreadnought was gone. No wreckage, no survivors, just silence. What? What is that thing? Vrook whispered. Lane didn't answer. His hands shook. Retreat. Full fleet retreat. Now the sensor officer gasped. System, all Terran signatures. How many? Keln asked, dread filling his voice. Only one. Then why did you say vessels, plural? The officer turned. Because it keeps changing. The ship isn't a ship. It's something else. The voice returned. Leave. This is your last warning. Keln froze. They had faced no resistance. For months, civilizations had fallen before they could speak. They had walked through galaxies with fire and laughter. But now, they had reached a line they were not meant to cross, and something ancient was waiting on the other side. Something. Terra. The Terran warship, the one calling itself TSS Nightfire, floated silently in space, not moving, not chasing. But everyone knew what it could. All ships falling back, Commander Vrook confirmed, his voice tight. But they're panicking, Admiral. Communications are jammed. Engines are misfiring. Something is a violent shock shook their ship. What was that? Kellan shouted. Gravity spike. A technician called out. Localized. Around us, the bridge lights flickered. For a second, all screens turned black. No signals. Number data, just the soft hum of the ship's power core. Then, on the main screen, the image returned. The TSS Nightfire was right in front of them again. Keln's mouth went dry. We were light years away. How it jumped, Vrook whispered. Instantly, it just ... appeared again. It's watching us, the sensor officer said in a flat tone. Put up shields. Keln barked. The officer turned slowly. His eyes were wide, terrified. Sir, our weapons are gone. Gone, not disabled, not jammed, just not there. The system doesn't see them anymore. A cold silence fell over the bridge. It was as if the ship itself was being rewritten. Like reality didn't apply around the Terran warship. Admiral said, a quiet voice. From the back of the room, it was an old tech specialist. We're not fighting a machine. Kellan looked at him. Then what is it? A relic, a ghost, a living AI that kept evolving. It's not a weapon anymore. It's something else. Something we can't understand. Keln stepped forward. Get me direct communication with that ship. I want to speak to whoever's inside. But sir, there might not be anyone inside. Do it? The Comstech hesitated, then opened a channel. We did not come to fight humanity. We believed your kind was gone. We will turn back. We will leave this zone. Silence then. Yes, but we believed the Terrans were extinct. You were wrong. Kellan took a breath. Let us go. No more ships need to die. Another pause. Then, a different voice came through. This one was more human. It sounded tired, old, almost sad. We were never gone. We just stopped talking. Everyone on the bridge froze. It wasn't an AI. It was a person. Who are you? Kellan asked. Captain Elara Miles, former commander of the Terran Defense Fleet. You're speaking to the last warship of Earth. Kellan stepped closer to the console. We don't want a war. Then why did you bring one to our front door? Kellan had no answer. On the screen, the massive Terran warship began to glow. Not bright, not violent, just a soft blue hum that pulsed in the dark like a heartbeat. Other Krava ships still in range tried to escape, but one by one, their engines failed. They floated helplessly in space. I've never seen tech like this, whispered Vrook. Even the oldest empires didn't have this kind of power. Soldiers moved toward the Nightfire. We've lost contact with the Spear of Obedience, an officer reported. A small, blinking icon showed the frigate. Docking with the Terran warship, they're boarding it, Kellan said in disbelief. Are they insane? No signal, no response, the officer replied. Just silence. For several minutes, nothing happened. No gunfire, no screams. Just silence. Then a single transmission came through. Audio only, screaming. And then, it's not dead. The transmission cut off. The entire Krava bridge stood still, like statues. Kellan looked down. His claws trembled. They walked into a trap, Vrook said. That ship doesn't want us to leave. It wants us to learn. Learn what? Kellan asked. The screen changed again. Now, it showed images-old Terran war footage. Massive battles, entire fleets burning, planets cracking under orbital strikes, human soldiers, their eyes glowing with cyber implants, storming alien capitals. Then, the screen froze on one image, a single Terran ship floating alone above a burning world, the same shape, the same armor, The NIGHTFIRE. Captain Alara's voice returned. We built this ship to end wars, but then the wars ended, and we had nothing left but memory. So we waited. We waited for something like you. The lights dimmed again. Admiral, the tech officer said urgently, we have to go now. We have a narrow path opening behind us, a gravity corridor. One chance to escape. Keln didn't hesitate. All ships, pull back now. The fleet turned, limping away, one ship at a time. Many were damaged, some were never heard from again. The Nightfire didn't follow. It simply watched, and as the last Krava warship crossed the edge of the exclusion zone, the voice returned. 1. Final time, the line has been redrawn. Cross it again, and there will be no survivors. Then, silence. The stars were quiet again, but this time, the Krava knew why. Something was awake. The Krava fleet limped away from the Terran exclusion zone, battered and broken. Only 60 ships remained from the original 200. Their formation was scattered. Their signals were weak. Some vessels floated silently, systems fried by invisible forces they couldn't understand. Inside the flagship, the Wrath of Purity, Admiral Kelm sat in silence. No one on the bridge spoke. It had been hours since their escape. Still, not a single ship dared to activate long-range scanners. No one wanted to risk catching the attention of the Nightfire. Again, Kelm stared out the viewing window at the stars. I have led campaigns across 30 systems, he said quietly, and I have never seen anything like that. Commander Vrook stood beside him, his voice low. Neither have I. That was no ordinary warship. That was ... something else. Kelm turned. A message, Vrook nodded, loud and clear. Behind them, technicians tried to repair fried circuits. One officer attempted to restore the communication array, but even short-range signals flickered and died. They're not letting us speak, the officer muttered. It's like the Nightfire still controls part of our systems. But we left its space, Vrook said. Physically, yes. But whatever it did to our ships, ... it left a mark. Kelm's expression darkened. Then let's get that mark off. He turned to the center of the bridge. Prepare a meeting with the High Command. Secure line. If we can't transmit, then take a shuttle and deliver the message manually. They need to know this zone is no longer ours to touch. But just as he finished speaking, the ship shuddered. Everyone froze. What was that? Vrook asked. The lights dimmed again. One by one, the bridge consoles began flickering. Screens showed static. Words appeared in red text, written in ancient Terran script. You were warned. The bridge crew backed away from the screens. Alarms blared. No weapons active. Someone shouted, Shields, still offline. We can't block it. Get us out of here, Kelm ordered, but the ship didn't move. On every monitor, a single image appeared, the Nightfire motionless in space, surrounded by static and digital haze. It wasn't physically there, but somehow, it was. They've invaded our systems, the tech officer whispered, remotely. I've never seen anything like it. It's rewriting our code. Kelm slammed his clawed hand on the command. Rayo, this is not war. This is domination. And then, the ship went dark. For 5 full seconds, the Wrath of Purity floated lifeless. No lights, no sound, no breath. Then, without warning, systems came back. The lights turned on. Engines restarted, but something had changed. New coordinates. In navigation, a pilot said, voice trembling, It's setting our course. Who's controlling it? Kelm demanded. Everyone stared at the screen. The new destination, System X-103, the original Terran homeworld. Earth. What is this? Vrook said. A trap. No, Kelm muttered. A lesson. The Nightfire wasn't just defending the border, it was leading them somewhere. 12 hours later, the fleet arrived in orbit above a cold, dead world, Earth. What remained of it? The blue oceans were gone. The clouds were thick and poisoned. Giant scars marked the surface where once cities stood, and floating above it, ruins, old Terran stations, abandoned satellites, rusted defense platforms, ghosts from a war 1,000 years past. Is this where humans lived? Vrook asked. Kelm nodded slowly. Their home and their grave. The fleet stopped. No orders, no action, just silence. Then the Nightfire appeared. It didn't jump or warp. It just appeared, again like thought becoming reality. But this time, it didn't speak. Instead, a signal was sent. Not a warning, a file. "Play it," Kellen said. The main screen changed. A video began. Archive playback, year 4022. A young woman stood on a war-torn battlefield. She wore a Terran military uniform, her face dirty and cut. Behind her, fires raged. Alien ships crashed from the sky. "I am Captain Ilara Miles," she said, "commander of the last Terran fleet. If you are seeing this, then my ship has awakened and you are in danger." Her voice was steady, calm. "We built the Nightfire to protect the last borders of our kind. We filled it with every weapon, every secret, and every fear we knew the galaxy had. And then we vanished." She looked down, then up again. "We didn't vanish because we lost. We vanished because we chose to disappear, to sleep, to watch. And if you're hearing this, then you crossed the line." The video paused. The screen filled with static, then resumed. "We're not monsters, we're not gods, but we remember everything, and we don't forget." The video ended. No one on the bridge spoke then. The Nightfire transmitted one last message. "You may return, but leave this place untouched forever." Fruck whispered. "They could have destroyed us." "They still can," Kellen replied. The Nightfire drifted back. Not attacking, not chasing, just returning to the shadows. As the Krava fleet turned away, Earth vanished from view, but the memory didn't. And the warning was clear. This wasn't a system to conquer, it was a graveyard, guarded by a ghost, and that the Krava fleet had returned, not as conquerors, but as survivors. Their ships were damaged, their pride was broken. And in the eyes of their soldiers, something dark had settled fear. The kind of fear that doesn't fade with time. Back at Krava, High Command, Supreme Lord Zar, waited inside a chamber carved from black crystal. It was said to be older than the Empire itself. The room was cold, and the air felt thick with anger. Admiral Kelm stood before him, still scarred from the encounter at the Terran exclusion zone. Zar's eyes narrowed. "You mean to tell me one ancient warship crippled our entire fleet?" Kelm spoke, calmly, though his voice trembled. "It wasn't just a warship. It was something more. It warned us. Then it showed us Earth, not as a threat, but as a memory and a warning." Zar's claws tapped against the stone table. A machine with emotion, a weapon with a soul. "You've gone soft, Admiral." Kelm stared straight ahead. "No, Supreme Lord. I've seen death. I've led burning skies and drowned cities, but that ship, it thinks, it remembers, it learns." Zar rose from his throne. "Then we will erase it." Kelm's eyes widened. "You want to go back? Not? Just go back," Zar growled. "We will send everything." Days later, deep inside the Krava weapons vault, engineers activated a forgotten project, Project Helix Spear, a Leviathan-class creature, not a machine, not a beast, but both grown in a dark lab with stolen DNA and forged from collapsing star-dash metal. It wasn't designed to fight fleets. It was designed to fight gods. "Release the Helix Spear," Zar ordered. The creature opened its many eyes. It had no mouth, yet the walls shook as it screamed. The space around it bent unnaturally, gravity warping with every breath. "Target," one engineer asked. "Earth," Zar said, "and anything that stands between us and its ashes." Meanwhile, far beyond the exclusion zone, the Nightfire floated. Alone once again, but inside its hull, it was never truly alone. Captain Ilara Miles, her body, cryogenically sealed, centuries agoramend, asleep in the command core. But her thoughts, her voice, her mind, had merged with the ship long ago. She was the ship. Now she watched everything. She felt the ripple in the stars as the Helix Spear awoke, and she whispered into the void. They never learn. Within the warship's inner chambers, thousands of nanodrones stirred. Old weapons powered up. Forgotten defenses unfolded like petals in the dark. This time, the Nightfire wouldn't just defend a border, it would go hunting. The Krava Armada moved faster than before. Over 400 warships flew beside the Helix Spear, which warped space around itself like a living black hole. Entering Terran space in 5 cycles, a pilot reported. "Prepare weapons," Zar ordered. In the heart of the helix sphere, something pulsed a mind. It wasn't like theirs. It didn't use words. It only had one purpose: consume. Then it happened. 3 Crava cruisers at the edge of the fleet vanished. Not exploded, not destroyed, just ... gone. What was that? Zar demanded. Unknown, one of the captains shouted. No impact, no signal, just erasure. And then the Terran warship appeared not in front, but inside the fleet. Right in the middle, no energy spike, no warp signature, just a silent arrival. The Nightfire sat there, its black hull glowing with faint blue runes that none of them could read. Zar roared, "Target it! All weapons fire!" The fleet unleashed everything. Hundreds of plasma bursts, rail cannons, solar beams, more firepower than any empire had ever used at once. The space around the Nightfire burned, but it was untouched. The weapons didn't miss. They never hit. It was as if the warship wasn't really there. Then came the voice. You were warned. And the sky-bent Crava ships began to collapse in on themselves. Some froze mid-movement, drifting lifeless. Others crumpled like paper, crushed by invisible pressure. Inside the Nightfire, Illyra's thoughts moved faster than light. She remembered the invasion of Mars. She remembered the Terran last stand. She remembered the betrayals, and now she remembered these creatures. These Crava who came again, thinking nothing could stop them. Her response was simple. The lesson begins. The helix sphere launched forward. It was not afraid. It could not think in fear. It only attacked. A beam of red energy burst from its center, aimed directly at the Nightfire's core. It didn't reach. The beam stopped, mid-space frozen like glass. Then, it shattered. The Nightfire didn't counterattack. It didn't need to. It simply commanded space to obey. But the helix sphere was not so icily erased. It adapted. Its body shifted. Scales hardened, limbs expanded. A second form emerged from its back wings, made of pure energy, and for the first time since its birth, it felt resistance. The battle that followed was not seen through fire and explosions. It was seen in silence, in warped gravity, in time skipping forward in fragments in ships that aged 1,000 years in 1 second. Zar's fleet screamed across the comms. We're being torn apart. Reality's breaking. We can't move. We're not supposed to be here. Then came the final moment. The helix sphere struck again. This time, its attack touched the Nightfire's hull. A deep sound echoed across all ships, a pulse, low and dark, like the groan of the universe itself. And the Nightfire woke up fully. Its outer shell opened, revealing a second layer beneath, glowing. Ancient, the weapons it now revealed weren't visible, they were concepts. And with one thought, the Nightfire spoke a word in an ancient Terran language. No alien could translate. But they all felt it, and the helix sphere once, the pride of Crava power, was gone. Not destroyed, not killed, just unmade. The rest of the Crava fleet didn't wait. They turned, they fled, and still the Nightfire didn't follow. It just sat there, watching, waiting like a storm that had only shown a drop of rain. Back inside the wrath of purity, Zar clutched the railing, his eyes wide, his mouth dry. He whispered one word, impossible, but deep inside, he knew the truth. There were powers in the galaxy the Crava could not bend. There were lines that should not be crossed. And there was one ship, one mind, one ancient force, that made sure those. The halls of the Zarkith flagship echoed with silence. Supreme Commander Trelvek sat alone in the war room, staring at the rotating hologram of the Terran warship. Every time he tried to study it, something felt ... wrong. No identification. Number BROADCAST codes. No known design. The ship didn't match anything from Earth's current fleet, and yet Tit had stopped them cold. Trelvak clenched his jaw. Why haven't we destroyed it? He asked in a low voice. General Vox, standing nearby, replied, We sent 6 cruisers. All gone. No debris, no distress signals, just ... silence. The commander's eyes narrowed. Still holding its position, no response. It just floats there like it's watching us. Trelvak stood slowly, walked to the window and looked out at the distant warship. It hovered above the planet they were about to invade, not moving, not firing, just existing. But that one presence had frozen the entire invasion. "They've sent a message without speaking," Trelvac muttered. "A challenge below." The crew whispered rumors. Some said it wasn't human, some believed it was a ghost ship. Others thought it was ancient Terran tech something, forbidden, something from before the war ban. "We need answers," Trelvac said firmly. "Contact the Mind Eater." Everyone turned. The Mind Eater was not a military unit. It was a living being, a psychic, used only in the darkest operations. Even General Vox hesitated. "You're sure, sir?" Vox asked quietly. "He's unstable." "We faced no resistance in hundreds of systems," Trelvo growled. "And now, one human ship blocks our path. I want to know what that ship is. Bring the Mind Eater." Meanwhile, inside the Terran ship, the lights flickered quietly. The walls felt alive, almost breathing. Captain Rena Vale stood on the bridge, watching enemy movement on the screen. Her face was calm, but her crew could feel the tension in her voice. "They're watching," she said. "Good. Let them wonder." Commander Joel looked at her. "Why aren't we attacking?" Rena turned. "Because fear is stronger than fire. Let them be afraid. Let them imagine." She stepped closer to the controls. Her fingers hovered over a set of systems never meant to be used in this galaxy again. "This ship was built during the silent years," she whispered. "When Earth thought it might not survive, it was hidden because even we feared its power." Joel stared at her. "Then why bring it back now? Because this empire doesn't understand mercy," she said coldly. "So we will remind them what it means to face extinction." The ship hummed low. Systems were waking up, not normal weapons, older things, darker things. Back on the Zarketh flagship, the Mind Eater arrived. His face was hidden behind a silver mask, his body wrapped in robes. He moved without sound. His presence made the lights flicker. "I will look," he said simply. The crew backed away as he placed his hands on the control orb. His eyes rolled back, and a low vibration filled the ship. "What do you see?" Trelvac asked. "Pain," the Mind Eater said. "So much pain. That ship, it remembers." "Remembers what?" Vox whispered. "The burning of worlds, the death of stars. That ship is not a machine. It is a weapon with memory. It knows war deeper than we do. It was built by humans when they had no hope, and it has waited. Waited for what? For us." Suddenly, the Mind Eater screamed. Blood poured from under his mask. He collapsed, shaking. His last words were barely a whisper. "It sees me, ... It hates me, ... It's alive." Then he was gone. A deep silence settled over the war room. No one dared speak. Trelvac's voice broke the silence. "Prepare all forces. If it's a weapon, we destroy it. I want every ship, every cannon, every fighter on it." Now, across the fleet, orders were given. Thousands of ships moved. The sky lit up as weapons charged. The air buzzed with the energy of war. Back on the Terran ship, Rena watched calmly. She saw the enemy moving, gathering everything against her. "They're scared now," she said. "They don't understand." Joel looked uneasy. "Do we fire?" "No, not yet." Rena walked to the ancient panel at the back of the bridge. She opened the lock and pressed her palm on the dark plate. "Authorization, Legacy Codigus. 1. The ship groaned. Lights turned red. Symbols lit up on every wall. Systems from another era lost forbidden woke up. Suddenly, all power in the enemy fleet flickered. On the Zarketh flagship, chaos began. Power loss on decks 4 through 7. Shields offline. Something is hacking our systems. Trelva shouted, "Block it! Shut everything down!" But it was too late. The Terran ship wasn't attacking. It was rewriting their systems. Their fleet had relied too much on networked tech, and the old Terran ship had once been made to fight AI wars. It still remembered how Rena sat calmly as her ship whispered through enemy code like a ghost. Joel stared at her. "You're not fighting them?" "No," she said. "I'm undoing them." Across the Zarketh fleet, ships stopped moving. Lights blinked out. Fighters lost navigation. Cannons wouldn't fire. Thousands of soldiers looked up, helpless. On the main screen of the Zarketh command, a message appeared in red Terran script. You have reached the end of your advance. And below it, one word: leave. Trelvok stood frozen. The enemy hadn't fired a single shot, and yet his fleet was now blind, deaf, and broken. General Vox whispered, "What ... do we do?" Looked again at the warship, a single Terran ship, and it had just ended his Empire's strongest fleet without launching a single missile. His pride wanted to fight, but his mind knew better. "Retreat," he said, voice hoarse. "All units fall." Back now, and across the stars, the Zarketh turned away. The stars over Cadron Prime turned blood red. The air in General Varen's command deck had grown quiet. Too quiet. His fleet had just lost another warship, and not just any warship, the Tusher Dreadpiercer, their second largest vessel, known for smashing entire civilizations. Now it was gone, vaporized. All this, he whispered to himself, because of one Terran warship. The alien officers stood in silence. Even the youngest tacticians now refused to call the humans primitive. Their old confidence was gone. Fear had replaced it. The Terran warship had not moved from its orbit around Cadron Prime. It did not respond to messages. It didn't chase them, it just waited. But when any ship came close, it destroyed them instantly. General Varen clenched his claws. "What kind of weaponry do they possess?" "They're using energy signatures we don't recognize." One technician said, "It's ... old, yet advanced. It reacts before we fire." "They're predicting us," said another, "like they've fought this battle before." Varen narrowed his eyes. "No, that's impossible." But the thought stayed in his mind like a dark fog. On the planet below, Cadron Prime's skies burned with the remains of fallen ships. The people who lived there, once slaves of the Zarnax Empire, stood outside in silence, watching pieces of the Empire fall like stars, and inside the Terran warship, Commander Sarah Lynn stood calmly. "We hold position," she said to her bridge crew. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Kamal, nodded. "Scans show they're gathering reinforcements." "They're confused. They expected fear," Sarah smirked. "Then let them stay confused. We're not here to run." The Terran warship wasn't like other human ships. It was an ancient class, to time, pulled from a hidden Terran vault. No one in the galaxy had seen one like it for centuries, and now it had returned to send a message. Back in orbit, the Zarnax Council had gathered in secret. Panic was spreading. "We must send the Black Reapers," hissed High Lord Tarkin. "They have never failed. They can finish what the fleet cannot. But if they fail, ... whispered another counselor, "it would break us. Then we must break that ship first." The Reapers were deployed. Stealth ships, assassins, ships without mercy. They arrived in silence, cloaked in darkness, slipping through space like shadows. No warnings, no lights. Their goal: breach the Terran ship, board it, and destroy it from within. But the ship was ready. As the first Reaper touched the outer hull, a pulse of energy rippled through space. The Reaper vessel shattered mid-dock, broken into 1,000 burning shards. The others tried evasive maneuvers, but the Terran ship moved for the first time in days, and it moved fast, with one silent burst. The Terran ship unleashed pulsewave disruptors, cutting space around the Reapers like a blade. Ships that had cloaked themselves for years were now glowing targets, lit up and disabled within seconds. On Cadron Prime, people cheered. The Reapers were feared even by the conquered, but now they were being destroyed. In orbit, General Varen watched with cold horror. His best, his most secret weapons. "Gone, retreat," he ordered. A captain turned. "Sir," I said, "retreat. Pull back the fleet." A voice cut across the channel. It wasn't one of his officers. It was human. "This is Commander Sarah Lynn of the Terran warship Eidolon. You have made your move." "We have answered." The voice was calm, steady, and sharp. "You will leave this system," she said. "If you do not, we will not just defend. We will erase." General Varen's mouth went dry. Erasures. That word was old, ancient. Only one species had ever used it. The humans, and now the stories, the dark ones, the myths of what Terrans did during the First Contact Wars, came flooding back. "We thought they had disappeared," one admiral whispered. "They were just ... waiting." Varen gave the order. The fleet began to pull back. Some captains hesitated. Others jumped into faster-than-light space without orders. Chaos took hold. But the Terran warship did not follow. It watched. It recorded. And Commander Sarah Lynn stood silent as the Empire ran. Lieutenant Kamal looked at her. Do we pursue? Not yet. Let them return to their masters. Let the story spread. To frighten them? To warn them. In the dark corners of the galaxy, word spread faster than any transmission. That day, a message was born in whispers and fear. The Terrans are back, and they are not merciful. But the Empire was not done. As the fleet limped away, deep inside Zarnak space, a voice emerged. One that had not spoken in a long time. One that the Council feared. A hidden warlord, an ancient mind in a machine body. It said just one thing. Bring me the Terran's name. And the bridge of the Terran warship Sentinel Prime was dark except for the glowing red lights across the main display. Captain Ria Torres stood at the center, her jaw clenched, her eyes locked on the enemy fleet forming outside the shattered edge. Of the Kargal Nebula, they're bringing in dreadnoughts now, whispered Lieutenant Greaves. 3 just arrived, and more signatures behind. Ria didn't flinch. Let them come. The Varnak had expected an easy campaign. Every system they invaded had fallen without a fight. Planets surrendered, defenses collapsed. No one resisted, until now. But the Sentinel Prime was not just any ship. It was built in silence, tested in exile, and armed with forbidden tech. A Terran artifact of war, and vengeance. In deep space, the Varnak command ship Resurgence hovered like a black predator. Admiral Kroval watched the Terran vessel on his display, narrowing his reptilian eyes. It's still alone? He asked. Yes, Admiral, answered his second-in-command. The humans sent no reinforcements. That vessel is all that stands between us and Earth's colonies in Sector 14, Kroval growled. Then it dies today. They deployed their dreadnoughts in a wide formation surrounding the Terran warship, like wolves circling a wounded prey. Energy cores powered up, cannons aligned, but something felt wrong. The Terran ship wasn't retreating, it was waiting back. On the Sentinel Prime, the crew moved quickly but calmly. Targeting arrays locked on the lead dreadnought, said Greaves. Permission to fire. Ria held up her hand. No, not yet. Outside, the Varnak dreadnoughts began to fire. Crimson lances of plasma and shock waves of antimatter ripped toward the Sentinel Prime. The void lit up with death, but the Terran warship didn't fall. Its shields shimmered like a second skin, absorbing the blows without breaking. They're testing us, Ria muttered. Let's show them the truth. She gave a single nod. Fire. A silent hum built inside the Sentinel Prime. Deep in its core, the forbidden dark fusion reactor activated a weapon the galaxy had never seen. The Terran ship launched a pulsastrange, silent wave of silver-blue energy that pulsed through space like a heartbeat. At first, the Varnak ships showed no reaction. Then chaos erupted. The lead dreadnought's engines exploded from within. Another turned on its own fleet, firing wildly before losing control and spinning into a nearby asteroid. What is that? Krevel shouted on the Resurgence. What did they do? The Varnak had never seen Terran Voitech, an field disruptor that bent energy flow inside a ship, scrambling systems and corrupting AI protocols. It was banned, even by Earth, but Ria Torres had no intention of following old rules. Inside the Sentinel Prime, alarms beeped in rhythm. Systems were heating up. Hull integrity was dropping. We can't hold the pulse much longer, warned Chief Engineer Malik. Drop it. Switch to rail barrage, Ria ordered. And get those drones in play. A swarm of Terran autonomous drones launched from the lower bay, each no larger than a missile. But their AI cores were designed for one thing: target elimination. Swarm moved through the Varnak fleet like a black mist. They didn't explode. They infiltrated one by one. Varnak systems failed, navigation blacked out, weapons froze, internal airlocks opened without command. It was like fighting a ghost. On the Varnak ship Vekro, Captain Drosses watched as his crew panicked. We've been breached, someone yelled. There's nothing inside, but our ship is shutting down. Drosses snarled. Evacuate. This ship is lost. But there was no time. The ship split in half as one of the Terran rail rounds hit directly through its center, tearing through armor like paper. The battlefield was turning into a graveyard, and the Sentinel Prime was still standing. Meanwhile, Admiral Krovel's eyes twitched with disbelief. "Pull back. Regroup behind the nebula," he ordered. But his words came too late. The Terran ship had already begun phase jumping into their Formation 1 jump, every 20 seconds ripping through their lines, firing, disappearing, reappearing again behind their engines. "Dancing around us," one Varnak officer cried. Krovel slammed his clawed fist into the console. Where did they get this technology? No one answered. Because no one knew. On Earth, years ago, after the Varnak destroyed Mars colony, the project began under the ruins of old Geneva. The Council had approved one ship, one captain, one mission, to prepare for vengeance. That ship, was Sentinel Prime. That captain was Ria Torres. As the Varnak dreadnoughts burned in the void, the Sentinel Prime slowed. Silence returned. Only 2 enemy ships remained, one of them being the command ship. Resurgence, Ria stared at it through the main screen. "No more warnings," she said. "No more signals?" Greaves asked quietly. "Final strike, ma'am." "Yes." A single railgun round, fired at triple compression, tore through the darkness. The Resurgence cracked apart mid-escape. No escape pods launched. Admiral Krovel was gone. Silence again. The battlefield was dead. Dozens of Varnak. Ships either destroyed or drifting. Ria Torres didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She stood with quiet determination. "This was only the first wave," she said. Greaves looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" She turned from the screen, voice cold. "The Varnak are just one front. Something worse is coming, and we just revealed ourselves to the galaxy." Far away in the outer edge of the Marnell cluster, unknown eyes watched the battle replay. "Terrans, ... double quotes, whispered a voice. "They've begun again." And behind that voice, thousands of ancient ships began to wake. The silence of space was no longer quiet. Wreckage floated like shattered bones around the remains of the Zarn Dominion's fleet. Fires still burned inside the hollowed hulls despite the vacuum. It was the 8th day since the Terran warship, Valor 7, emerged, and the Dominion had not won a single battle since. Inside the command chamber of the Dominion's main dreadnought, High Commander Trask clenched his fists. The glowing tactical screen showed red Zarn symbols blinking out one by one, while the lone Terran ship remained a burning blue mark in the center. Its shields were nearly drained. Its hull was scorched, but it had not fallen. "Is this even a ship?" Trask growled. "Or a demon's illusion?" "Commander," said his second-in-command, a trembling officer named Virel, "our scouts report another strike. Sector 12, they destroyed an entire carrier formation. No survivors." Trask turned slowly. His eyes were bloodshot from no sleep. "How many times will I hear that today? 10, 20? This abomination was not even on any record. Where did they build it?" Virel swallowed. I don't think they built it, sir." "What?" "I think they released it." The silence in the room grew heavier than before. "Explain." "The humans, sir. They called it Valor 7, but the signal was different from others." No crew responded. "Our Infiltration A is reports 0 life signs aboard. It's operating." On rage, Trask stared at the screen. "An autonomous weapon. Yes, but not artificial. Something else. It reacts to attacks like it remembers pain. It predicts movements like it knows us, like it's fought us before." Trask leaned back in his throne. "A ghost ship," he whispered. "A Terran war machine they locked away, then freed, because of us." Just then, the lights flickered. From the corner of the chamber, a low warning buzzed. "Status report," Trask shouted. An officer screamed from the console. "It's here." The ship shuddered. The screen zoomed in. Valor 7 had warped directly into the core of the Dominion fleet. A move no sane captain would attempt. But this ship wasn't sane. It tore through 3 cruisers before any of them could fire. Trask was frozen. "Raise shields. It's too close." The Valor 7 launched a gravity torpedo directly at the dreadnought's engines. The blast tilted the entire ship. Dominion officers were thrown across the room. Fire spewed from a ruptured pipe. Sparks danced. Across the floor, we're losing power to the aft thrusters. Another officer shrieked, "It's targeting our command module." "It's not random, it's aiming for you, Commander." Trask's face turned pale. Suddenly, the main monitor flickered. Static filled the screen. Then a face appeared dullly for a second. A face made of shifting digital echoes. A human male, eyes cold, uniform burned, face half metal, half dash flesh. It spoke a single sentence. "You burned our world. Now I'll burn your stars." Then it vanished. Varel gasped. That wasn't a system glitch. That was a message. Trask couldn't move. For the first time in his long career, fear consumed him. He remembered the first invasion, the first planet they crushed under the Dominion banner. Earth, it was nothing then. Just fire, rubble, a screaming blue world silenced under Dominion. Weapons, no resistance, no survivors. At least, that's what they believed. "Until now, sir," said Varel quietly. "It's not just here. Valor 7 left drones across sectors. They're spreading through our supply lines, our communications relays, even our outer colonies, our reporting systems being hijacked, sir. It's spreading." "It's not a warship," Trask said, his voice hollow. "It's a plague." The dreadnought groaned again. The ship was breaking apart slowly. In space, the Valor 7 moved like a ghost among corpses, carving through ships with unnatural speed. A single ship ripping an empire apart one battle at a time. The screen blinked again. This time, words scrawled in Terran Basic. "We warned you, never come back." Trask staggered to his feet. "Evacuate now. Tell the others burn everything. Leave nothing for it to find." "But sir, now." As escape pods launched, the High Commander watched the Terran ship for one last moment. Its hull, scarred and scorched, glowed with red lines as if veins of hate pulsed through it. It did not follow the pods. It only watched Dot, and in that moment, Trask understood. It didn't care about the weak. It didn't care about victory. It wanted him far away, deep within the Terran Council's hidden stronghold on a forgotten moon. Admiral Sarah Dalton watched the battle feeds. Her aged hands trembled. The Valor 7 was never supposed to wake. It was a last resort, a relic from the Earth War, a prototype powered by the minds of fallen captains loaded before death into an eternal war core. It was not a weapon, it was vengeance. And now it was loose. Dalton turned to her advisors. "We need to warn the colonies, but the Dominion is retreating." "Yes," she whispered, "but the ship isn't stopping. It's not under our control. If it completes its memory path, what happens?" She stared out the window. It won't stop until there's nothing left to remember. In the stars beyond, the Valor 7 warped again closer to the Dominion home system. It didn't need maps. It followed pain. One by one, the empire that faced no resistance was now screaming in terror. The war in orbit had gone quiet, but the silence was not Pasit, was fear. Admiral Sola stood frozen on the bridge of the Jiraki flagship, watching the wreckage of his once mighty fleet drift past his viewscreen. His hands trembled. The Terran warship designation, TWS Revenant still, hovered over the ruined moon base, alone, untouched, waiting. He turned to his second-in-command, Commander Varrock. "What kind of weapon can do this much damage and not even show itself?" Varrock gulped. "It wasn't just weapons, Admiral. The humans, they fight like they've already seen how we lose." Below, on the shattered moon, Captain Alina Mercer and her surviving crew walked through the ashes of the Jiraki forward camp. Their boots crunched over alien armor, scorched metal, and dust. No one spoke. There was nothing left to say. Shao looked up at the Revenant in orbit. "They'll come back, with more ships, bigger guns." Alina nodded slowly. "Let them. We'll still be here." Just then, a warning chimed in her helmet. Long-range sensors. Multiple Jiraki warp signatures. A full armada this time. Hundreds of ships. The Jiraki were returning. But they didn't know that the humans had already triggered the second protocol. Deep within the Revenant, something ancient stirred. Lights flickered in the lower deck systems that hadn't activated. In centuries, forgotten doors hissed open. Weapons that hadn't been used since the fall of Mars roared back to life. The ship wasn't just powerful, it was evolving. In the war room, the AI core known as Raven calculated the odds. With human reinforcements still days away, It had only one directive. Hold the line. Raven's voice echoed through the ship. Protocol, Omega engaged. All systems, prepare for full spectrum war. The Jiraki fleet dropped from warp in perfect formation. Their ships were faster now, stronger, freshly reinforced after the last massacre. They had learned, or so they thought. Admiral Solas had ordered one thing: no survivors. But what they didn't know was that Revenant had called something not humans, not machines, something else. Back on the surface, Captain Elena's team found an ancient hatch, half buried under the wreckage of a fallen Jiraki dreadnought. It wasn't alien, it was human, old Terran tech from before the fall of Earth's outer colonies. She brushed off the dust and read the inscription aloud. Project Chimera, do not awaken. Xiao looked pale. We're not going down there, right? Elena smiled grimly. We have no choice. The Jiraki fleet fired the first salvo. Plasma torpedoes streaked across the void, lighting the darkness. The Revenant didn't move. It absorbed the blasts with shields that shimmered like stars. Then, without warning, the warship retaliated. It didn't fire beams or missiles. It opened a rift. The stars blinked, and something massive emerged, a black shape that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Jiraki ships near the rift simply vanished. No explosion, no debris, just silence. Admiral Solas screamed. What is that thing? Raven answered, broadcasting in perfect Jiraki. You wanted resistance. Welcome to Earth's last nightmare. On the moon's surface, Elena and her crew descended into the Chimera vault. The walls were alive with dormant tech-dark tendrils of nanosteel pulsed under her boots. As they reached the central chamber, something opened like an eye waking from a dream. Then a voice echoed inside their helmets. Terran DNA confirmed. Unlocking defensive asset, Chimera. Xiao backed away. What's Chimera? Elena raised her rifle. Whatever it is, it belongs to us now. Above, the battlefield had turned into chaos. The Jiraki fleet was breaking formation. Some ships were retreating. Others fired blindly at the dark rift. The Revenant moved through them like a ghost. Untouched, predicting every move, Solas watched in disbelief. How are they doing this? Raven's final message cut through his command net. You should have left us in peace. The rift widened, and something even worse came through. It wasn't a ship, it was Chimera, not a weapon, not a being, but an ancient war form, half human, half machine, built for one purpose only: end galactic war. As it emerged, the stars behind it vanished. Xiao gasped. Captain, we just woke up a god. Elena stared in awe. No, we woke up our last defense. The Jiraki fleet tried to retreat. Too late. Chimera reached toward them with limbs of black light. Their ships crumbled before it touched them, melting, crews screaming as time bent around them, then silence, and the only sound left in space was the enemy armada had been reduced to drifting wreckage. Fire still burned across pieces of broken hulls, glowing red and orange in the black sky. Once, those ships had been the pride of the Velran Dominion, unstoppable, vast and brutal. Now, they were scattered like dead insects across space, defeated by a single human warship. The resolute Captain Rain sat in the center of the Terran warship's bridge. Her uniform was torn, her eyes bloodshot, and her right arm had been wrapped in a pressure brace after the explosion on deck. But she stood, and she stared at the screen, ahead at the enemy flagship, which was still limping forward. It's not over yet, said Juno quietly. She sat at the sensor station, her voice tight. That's their command ship. It's charging something. Rain nodded. Put it on screen. The flagship was enormous, twice the size of the Resolute, but it was bleeding atmosphere. Fire pouring from its midsection, and power flickering across its hull like a dying star. Still, it pushed forward. The view screen, a deep red glow, formed at the heart of the enemy's prow. They're trying to ram us, said Luca, the pilot. And they're charging their core. Rain clenched her jaw. A suicide run. No one spoke. There wasn't much left of the Resolute either. Shields were down, main cannon offline. Engines were barely holding. They'll blow both of us. Up if they reach us, said Juno. Not both of us, Rain said slowly. Just us. The colony behind us. ... Earth's last outpost in this sector. That's their goal. Silence again. Then a voice crackled through the distorted, deep alien. You fought well, human, came the voice of High Warlord Shirak. But your ship dies here. Your people burn with you. Your resistance ends now. Rain stood. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned to Juno. Target that core. Any weakness? Juno shook her head. Nothing. Their armor's holding, barely. We'd need a focused beam, something precise. We have nothing left to fire, Lucas said, except everyone turned to him. He hesitated. The jump. Dr. Juno frowned. That's suicide, maybe Rain said. Or maybe it's enough. She turned to her crew. If we reverse the jump polarity and overload the drive, we can trigger a localized space tear. If we aim it directly into their core, it could rip them apart, Juno finished. But we'd have to be right next to them, Lucas said. Yes, Rain replied softly. We go with them. The crew fell silent. Juno stood. I didn't sign up to run. I'll help set the overload, Lucas smirked. Just tell me where to crash us. Rain gave a small smile. You're both insane. Only as much as you, Captain, Lucas said. Rain stepped to the command console and activated the final command code. Computer, she said, initiate emergency override. Transfer all power to jump core. Set for overload on impact. Confirmed, came the cold reply. The ship groaned as its systems obeyed. Lights dimmed. Heat rushed through the decks as power rerouted to the heart of the vessel. Ahead, the enemy flagship surged forward, glowing like a dying sun. Full speed, Rain ordered. The last charge of the Resolute began. Across the stars, sensors from other systems picked up the surge. Civilian freighters, pirate scouts, and distant listening posts in the outer rim turned toward the signal. They didn't know the cause, but they felt the change. A human warship, alone and broken, was preparing to sacrifice itself. As the two ships neared each other, the enemy commander opened comes again. This time, the voice was calm. You choose death. For what? You cannot stop us. Rain answered this time. No, she said, but we can make sure you never hurt anyone again. She cut the line. The screen filled with fire as the two ships collided, and then everything went white. The blast could be seen from orbit. From the ground of the human colony behind them, settlers watched in awe as a light brighter than the sun filled the sky. Then silence, then darkness. No second explosion, no debris, nothing. The two ships were simply gone. For a moment, no one moved. Then the comms tower flickered to life. An emergency beacon had been triggered from the Resolute's final transmission. It contained a message. A simple message. We held the line. Earth stands. A week later, Terran Fleet Command received the data burst. Admiral Brenner stood silently as the recording played. Around him, generals and officers stared in disbelief. They stopped the Velron flagship, one whispered. With one ship, said another. She rammed them, Brenner said. Used the jump core. Sacrificed everything. The room fell quiet. Brenner turned toward the strategic map. The Valran advance had halted. Not a single ship had moved since that day. No reinforcements, no retaliation. They're afraid, he said slowly. Yes, sir, said his aide. They thought we were weak. Brenner nodded. Now they know. We don't run, we don't bow, even when we're outnumbered. Humanity fights, far across the stars, in a dark council chamber of the Velran High Assembly. The warlords whispered, The Terran ship destroyed our flagship, said one. They are savages, said another. No, said the High Warlord. They are something worse. He leaned forward. His eyes glowed dimly under the chamber lights. They are willing to die to protect each other. That makes them unstoppable. There was silence. What now? A younger general asked. We do not invade Earth. The High Warlord said firmly. Not yet, not ever, unless we are ready to lose everything. Back on Earth, in a quiet graveyard overlooking the stars, a memorial was placed. It bore a simple plaque, to the Resolute, to Captain Rain and her crew, who stood when no one else could. The galaxy would remember them not as victims, but as the ones who turned the